What if I told you that the orange drink sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now has less real fruit in it than a single orange peel? What if I told you this drink was once considered so advanced that NASA gave it to astronauts flying to space? And what if I told you that turning a liquid into that little orange powder you scoop into your cup takes machines the size of houses, freezing chambers colder than winter in Alaska, and a process so precise that one tiny mistake can ruin an entire batch? Stick around because today we are cracking open the story of Tang, one of the most iconic drinks in American history. By the end of this video, you will never look at that orange packet the same way again. And hey, if you like learning weird and fascinating facts about the everyday things around you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the like button right now, because trust me, this one is going to blow your mind. Where did Tang even come from? Let's rewind the clock all the way back to the 1950s. Picture America after World War II. Families are moving to the suburbs, television is becoming a big deal, and companies are racing to invent new convenience foods that make life easier. In the middle of all this, a food scientist named William Mitchell, working for a company called General Foods, was tasked with creating something new. A drink that tasted like orange juice but didn't need refrigeration, didn't spoil quickly, and was packed with vitamin C. Think about that for a second. In the 1950s, if you wanted orange juice, you either squeezed it fresh or you dealt with juice that went bad fast. Mitchell's job was to solve that problem using science. And in 1957, he did it. Tang was born. But here's a fun question for you. Do you think Tang was an instant hit when it launched? Drop your guess in the comments below because the answer might surprise you. Actually, no, it wasn't. Tang sat on store shelves for a few years without a lot of excitement. It needed something big to launch it into stardom. And that something big came from outer space. The NASA connection. That changed everything. In the early 1960s, the United States was racing the Soviet Union to conquer space. This was the era of the space race, and every mission NASA launched became a national event watched by millions of families glued to their television sets. NASA needed food and drinks that astronauts could safely consume in orbit. Lightweight, non-perishable, and nutritious. Tang checked all those boxes. NASA started sending it up with astronauts, and here's the wild part. Astronauts didn't just drink Tang because it was healthy. They drank it because the recycled water inside early spacecraft tasted absolutely terrible. Imagine being stuck in a tiny capsule, floating in space, and the only water you have tastes like metal and chemicals. Tang masked that awful taste and made the water bearable to drink. Then came the moment that changed Tang forever. In 1962, astronaut John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth, and cameras captured him drinking Tang during his historic flight. General Foods jumped on this instantly. They built entire advertising campaigns around the idea that Tang was the official drink of astronauts. The drink of the future, the drink of space explorers. Almost overnight, Tang transformed from a random powdered drink, sitting quietly on a grocery shelf, into a symbol of American innovation and space-age technology. Kids all over the country wanted to drink what astronauts drank. Parents wanted to feel like they were bringing a little piece of the future into their kitchen. And just like that, a science experiment turned into a cultural icon. Pretty incredible marketing story, right? But now let's get into the part you really came here for. How in the world do they actually make this stuff? Wait, how much real fruit is actually in there? Before we dive into the factory process, I need to hit you with a fact that might completely change how you see powdered juice drinks. Are you ready for this? Most powdered juices, including premium brands like Tang, contain somewhere between just 1% and 3% of actual dehydrated fruit juice. Let that sink in for a moment. That means almost everything else in that packet, the color, the flavor, the sweetness, is built using sugars, food acids, artificial coloring, and flavoring agents designed in a lab to trick your brain into thinking you're drinking real orange juice. It's not really juice in the traditional sense. It's closer to a carefully engineered flavor experience. Now, does that mean it's a bad product? Not necessarily. Companies use these methods to create something that's shelf-stable, affordable, and consistent. But it does mean the process is way more like a chemistry lab than a simple juice squeeze. Step 1. Getting the fruit ready. Every batch starts with real fruit, usually oranges since that's the classic Tang flavor. But before any juice gets extracted, the fruit has to go through serious quality control. Workers and machines sort through massive quantities of fruit, tossing out anything damaged, unripe, or lower quality. Only the best fruit continues down the line. Next, the fruit gets washed, but not just with regular water. It's cleaned using a mild hypochlorite solution, which is a sanitizing agent designed to kill bacteria and other microorganisms. Think of it like a deep, industrial-level hand wash, except it's for oranges, and it's happening on a scale of thousands of pounds at a time. Once the fruit is clean, it's time to actually get the juice out. Factories use powerful hydraulic presses and centrifuges, basically giant machines that squeeze and spin the fruit at high speed, to separate the liquid juice from the pulp, seeds, and peel. This is the raw juice that will eventually become the flavor base for the final product. Quick question for you before we move on. Have you ever wondered why powdered juice can sit in your pantry for over a year without going bad, while a carton of fresh orange juice spoils in a couple of weeks? Keep that question in mind. Step 2. Turning juice into concentrate. Here's where things start getting seriously industrial. The freshly extracted juice still contains a huge amount of water, and water is exactly what causes spoilage. So the juice gets pumped into massive machines called vacuum evaporators. These work by heating the juice under low pressure, which allows water to evaporate at a much lower temperature than normal. This is important because using extreme heat could destroy the delicate flavor and nutrients in the juice. By controlling the pressure and temperature, the evaporators pull water out until the solid content increases by 50%. What started as a watery liquid is now a thick, concentrated syrup packed with flavor. At this stage, manufacturers also add stabilizing agents like maltodextrin. The concentrated mixture is then pasteurized, heated briefly to kill off any remaining bacteria, to make absolutely sure it's safe for people to consume. So now we have a thick, safe, flavor-packed concentrate, but it's still a liquid, and Tang, as we know it, is a powder. So how exactly do they turn a liquid into those tiny dry crystals? Step 3. The 2 ways to make it a powder. The first and most common method is called spray drying. Picture an enormous metal chamber, sometimes several stories tall. Inside this chamber, the liquid concentrate is sprayed out through nozzles as an incredibly fine micromist, almost like a fog. At the exact same moment, blasts of extremely hot air shoot through the chamber. Because the droplets are so tiny and the air is so hot, the moisture evaporates almost instantly, leaving behind tiny dry particles that fall to the bottom of the chamber. This method is fast, affordable, and can produce huge quantities of powder in a short amount of time. The trade-off is that the intense heat can slightly reduce some of the natural flavor and nutrient quality. The second method is called freeze drying, and this one sounds like something out of a science fiction movie. In this process, the liquid concentrate is rapidly frozen solid. Then it's placed inside a vacuum chamber where the pressure is dropped dramatically. Under these conditions, something amazing happens. The ice doesn't melt into liquid first. Instead, it goes straight from a solid to a gas. Freeze drying produces a noticeably higher quality result. The flavor, aroma, and nutrients are preserved far better because there's no intense heat involved. But here's the catch. Freeze drying is slow and expensive. So here's a question worth thinking about. If freeze drying makes a better tasting product, why do you think most companies still choose the cheaper, faster spray drying method instead? Type your answer in the comments. Step 4. The grand blending process. Once the dehydrated fruit base is ready, whichever method was used, it heads to the next stage, blending. This is where the small percentage of real fruit powder meets everything else. Inside massive industrial blenders equipped with continuous rotating paddles, the fruit base gets combined with large quantities of sugar or sweeteners. Food acids are added next, giving the drink its tangy, slightly sour kick. Artificial coloring goes in too, giving the powder that unmistakable bright orange color we all recognize instantly. But there's one ingredient in this blending stage that's honestly pretty clever: encapsulated aromas. These are microscopic capsules that trap fruit scent molecules inside a protective coating. The capsules stay sealed while dry, but the moment you add water and start stirring, the capsules break open and release that fresh, fruity aroma. It's basically a tiny scent time bomb, engineered to go off at exactly the right moment, when the powder hits the water in your glass. Pretty clever, right? Step 5. Making sure. Every batch is perfect. You might think that once everything is blended together, the process is basically done. But there's actually a critical quality control stage that comes next. The blended mixture passes through heavy-duty industrial sieves, which are basically giant sifting screens. This step breaks apart any clumps and ensures every single particle of powder is a consistent, uniform size. Why does this matter so much? Because if the particle sizes are inconsistent, the powder might not dissolve evenly in water. You could end up with gritty bits floating in your glass or an uneven flavor. Manufacturers take this incredibly seriously. Wrong particle size, wrong color intensity, wrong flavor balance. Any of these issues means an entire batch could get rejected before it ever reaches a store shelf. Finally, we reach the last step of the journey: packaging. Automated machines measure out the exact dosage of powder needed for each individual packet or container, then seal it inside airtight, hermetic packaging. This sealing process isn't just about convenience. It's absolutely essential for keeping the product fresh. That packaging protects the powder from humidity, light, and oxygen. 3 things that can cause the powder to clump or lose flavor. Without that protective seal, the Tang sitting in your pantry could spoil or go stale within weeks instead of lasting for well over a year. It's the final piece of the engineering puzzle. So the next time you tear open a packet of Tang and pour it into your glass, you're actually looking at the final result of an incredibly complex journey. So what's the big takeaway here? Tang's success really comes down to 2 things working together perfectly. On one side, brilliant historical marketing, that unforgettable connection to NASA. On the other, highly advanced chemical engineering, one that started with real oranges and traveled through scientific precision. The next time somebody hands you a cheap packet of orange juice, you'll know the truth. It's not cheap in terms of the science and engineering behind it. It's actually one of the most complex food products hiding in plain sight. So let me ask you this. Did any of these steps genuinely surprise you? Which part of the process did you find the craziest? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one, and I love hearing what stood out to you the most. If you learned something new today, do me a favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because we're breaking down more everyday products very soon. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next video.